Have you ever looked up at the night sky and just felt small? That sense of wonder is incredible. But what if that vast, silent emptiness isn't a good thing? What if it's quiet for a reason? Well, today we're diving headfirst into one of the most chilling and honestly terrifying ideas about alien life, the dark forest theory. That quote from science fiction author Liu Cixin is pretty much the entire theory in a nutshell. It paints a picture of the cosmos not as some welcoming final frontier, but as a place of unimaginable danger, where the only way to survive is to be completely, utterly silent. And this whole idea is an attempt to answer a huge, nagging question that has bothered scientists for decades. You've probably heard of it. It's the Fermi Paradox, sometimes called the Great Silence. The logic is simple, right? The universe is unbelievably big and has been around forever, so it should be buzzing with alien civilizations. But when we actually point our telescopes out there and listen, we get nothing. Just silence. And I mean, let's just try to get a handle on the scale we're talking about here. 400 billion, that's a rough estimate for the number of stars just in our galaxy, the Milky Way. Not planets, stars. That's an insane number of chances for life to pop up in our own cosmic backyard. But that's just our galaxy. When you look at the whole observable universe, the number of stars is estimated to be 70 sextillion. That's a 7 with 22 zeros after it. A number so big it basically loses all meaning. With those kinds of odds, the universe should be a noisy cosmic metropolis. So why is it so quiet? So this is the paradox we're digging into. The math says life should be absolutely everywhere. Our observations, though, say it's nowhere. The dark forest theory offers a deeply unsettling answer. They are out there, but they're all hiding from each other. Okay, so to really get why everyone might be hiding, you have to understand the rules of this cosmic hunt. The theory is built on just a few core principles. The author calls them axioms of cosmic sociology, and when you put them together, they create a terrifyingly logical and incredibly brutal reality. So, rule number 1 is the simplest, most absolute one there is. Survival is everything. For any civilization, making sure it continues to exist is the highest possible priority. And what that means is, when push comes to shove, any action, no matter how ruthless, is on the table if it guarantees you get to see another day. And here's where things start to get tense. Rule number 2. Resources are limited. Civilizations, by their nature, need to grow and expand. But the amount of usable stuff in the universe, stars to harness, planets to colonize, is finite. It's a huge pie for sure, but it's not an infinite one. And over cosmic timescales, that means competition is not just possible, it's guaranteed. It's a zero-sum game. Now you add in the problem of distance. Space is just so mind-bogglingly vast that communication can take centuries, even thousands of years. You can't just have a quick chat. So if you spot another civilization, you can never, ever know what they're truly thinking. Are they peaceful? Are they hostile? And even if you're peaceful, how can you be sure they don't think you're a threat? This creates what's called a chain of suspicion, where the only safe bet is to assume the absolute worst. And then you throw in the ultimate wild card. Technology doesn't grow in a nice, predictable straight line. A species that seems primitive today could have a massive breakthrough tomorrow, a technological explosion, and suddenly become an existential threat. This means you can't just find a developing species and decide to watch them benignly. The risk that they'll leapfrog you technologically is just way too high. So let's just put it all together here, because this is where the logic really clicks into place. You start with survival as the number 1 goal. You add finite resources, creating competition. Then you add the chain of suspicion and the threat of a tech explosion. You can see how each step builds on the last, forcing you down a path that leads to one single, inescapable conclusion. And that conclusion is what we call the first strike imperative, because in this universe, with these rules, paranoia isn't just an emotion. It's the only logical, rational, and, frankly, survivable strategy there is. So, let's walk through it. Step 1. You spot someone else in the forest. Step 2, you can't be sure they're friendly because of that chain of suspicion. Step 3, you know they could at any moment become a much bigger threat. Step 4, the cost of guessing wrong, of being too trusting, is your own total annihilation. So, step 5, what's the only move that guarantees your survival? Destroy them. First. There's actually a name for this kind of no-win situation in game theory. It's called a Hobbesian trap. It's when two sides are forced into a fight out of pure distrust, even if they'd both be way better off cooperating. See, here on Earth, we have things like governments and international law, a leviathan, as the philosopher Thomas Hobbes called it, to keep the peace. Out in space, there's no one in charge. It is the definition of anarchy. And the very physics of the universe basically locks this trap shut. Think about it. A message of peace and a weapon that can crack a planet both travel at the same maximum speed, the speed of light. You can't trust a friendly hello because for all you know, the weapon was launched centuries before the message was even sent, set to arrive at the exact same time. Trust isn't just naive, it's strategically irrational. But, okay, is it really that simple? As airtight as the logic seems, the theory has a pretty big potential flaw. Critics point out that the central assumption that you can just easily wipe another civilization off the map might not actually be possible. This is what's known as the total kill problem. Remember that light speed delay we keep talking about? Well, it cuts both ways. If you detect a civilization that's 500 light years away, you're seeing them as they were 500 years ago. If you launch an attack right then, it'll take another 500 years to get there. By the time your weapon shows up, it's acting on intelligence that is 1,000 years out of date. And this gives a massive, maybe even unbeatable advantage to the defender. The attacker has to pull off a total kill. They have to destroy every single ship, every colony, every last outpost to be truly safe. But the defender, they only need one self-sufficient colony to survive, hide, rebuild, and one day retaliate. So the smartest thing for any civilization to do is spread out. And that makes attacking them not just nearly impossible, but a really, really bad idea. You might not kill them, but you'll have for sure created an enraged enemy who now has a vendetta. So this completely reframes the theory, doesn't it? Maybe the universe isn't a shooting gallery where everyone is trying to take each other out. Maybe the most rational strategy isn't to kill, but to hide so well that no one can ever target you in the first place. And in that case, the great silence, it isn't the silence of a cosmic graveyard. It's the sound of everyone, everywhere, holding their breath. And this brings all of this cosmic philosophy crashing right back down to Earth. Because if the dark forest theory is even a little bit right, it has huge, urgent implications for what we as a species do next. See, you have to understand the difference between two things, SETI and METI. SETI is the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. That's passive. We're just listening, quietly scanning the forest for any sounds. But METI is messaging extraterrestrial intelligence. That's active. That's us shouting into the forest, "Hey, we're over here." Now, in a dark forest, listening is probably safe. Shouting, well, that could be existentially reckless. And this isn't just some fringe sci-fi idea. The late, great Stephen Hawking was a vocal opponent of METI, and he pointed to our own history as the reason why. When has a more advanced culture meeting a less advanced one on Earth ever gone well for the less advanced? Why on Earth would we assume it would be any different on a cosmic scale? And here's the kicker. Here's our real predicament. We haven't been quiet. Not at all. We've been sending powerful signals out into space for decades, from intentional messages to just our everyday TV and radio broadcasts leaking out into the cosmos. We have already broken the #1 rule of the dark forest: stay silent. The fact that we're still here is a total mystery. Is it because no one's out there? Or is it because they've heard us and they just haven't decided to act? Yet? Maybe that silence we're hearing. Maybe that is the warning. So we're left with this. We have shouted into the void. Our signals are radiating outwards, carrying news of our existence to anyone who might be listening. The question is, did we just invite a hunter to our doorstep? And is the reason for the silence not because no one has heard us, but because someone is out there, just patiently taking their time, aiming carefully, before they decide to respond?